Now, the selling, distributing and transporting alcohol is prohibited up until the 15th of January, and restaurants and bars won't be permitted to sell alcohol at all. President Cyril Ramaphosa reiterated that the alcohol-related trauma, specifically drunk driving and violence during the festive season, has overburdened South Africa's emergency units. Just to give us some analysis, we'll be speaking on the line with Wendy Alberts from the RASA CEO, talking about some of the effects of this. The Tourism Business Council of South Africa will also be giving us some reaction. Let me just take us to Wendy. Wendy, very good morning to you. Thank you for your time. What is your reaction to the President's announcement?
Good morning. This is definitely a complete blow to the industry, and it's certainly not the news that we were hoping to receive. The result of this news is certainly going to show that many restaurants will be forced to close their businesses, some of their businesses permanently. At this point in time, the industry is in a panic, and we're certainly trying to take a step back and just recollect where we have gone wrong and look at provisions and ways that we can work with government. You know, we look back and we say if we had been further proactive, we wouldn't be sitting in this position as an industry. And we again are bearing the brunt of further restrictions based on poor social management and poor social behavior. The truth is that the people have not been controlled in spaces, in uncontrolled spaces, in public spaces. They've done crowds, they've done gatherings, they've had lock-in house parties. And restaurants really are a safe environment where people can come and enjoy the experience of having alcohol in a safe place and a meal in a safe place. But yet again, we have been targeted and we've been forced to take responsibility. We certainly believe that there are operators who have not adhered to the protocols, and we are certainly dealing with those people, but there are margins full of people in comparison to the entire restaurant that is now facing decimation. The impact that this is causing for us operationally, one is that we obviously need to cancel bookings. We've brought in stock, massive amounts of stock to carry us through for a time of the year that we believe is busy. We've got impossibility to do a dinner service, the cleaning, getting our staff home, clothing procedures. It puts a lot of pressure on us, cash flow. Financially, this is complete chaos for us. We have no relief. There certainly isn't any compensation coming our way. And the landlords need to assist us once again. We're already in a divorce with them. Banks are not going to give us overdrafts. And we're asking government, where is TERS? What is happening with TERS? We haven't had TERS for 4 months. We are carrying huge overdrafts, being able to support the staff through this time. And we certainly haven't had any rebates. We've also appealed to the Liquor Licence Board, which we've had no relief from in the last year, to let us know what is happening with those rebates for the licenses that we haven't been able to use. So if we look at all of this, you know, we're businesses. We are tax-paying businesses, contributors to the economy. We employ large, massive amounts of people. We are operating in a business, custodians of liquor licenses, where we can control, execute compliance, push out the regulations. And now, because public spaces and behaviors have not managed, we have been put at risk again of being decimated.
As a tax-paying businesses contributing to the economy and carrying huge overdrafts, Wendy, just talk us through the numbers, the financial losses that you saw during the very hard lockdown, and what you are anticipating will result in this level 3 lockdown.
Running a restaurant business is very tricky. The financial model is very, very thin. It is very frail. And we have been trying to recover and rebuild our businesses single-handedly without the help of anybody in the food chain, no banks, insurances, as you well know, et cetera, et cetera. So we've already been trying to pay back that accumulated loss. Some suppliers have been impatient. They've actually taken judgment for product that we took during lockdown in the early days that we weren't able to pay back, and have put us on RTC and taken judgments. So we're sitting in a situation now where we're holding out for the festive season to bring us sufficient money to pay back some of the debt, to sort out the issues with the landlords, to keep staff employed, and to be able to have resources to carry us forward. And that certainly hasn't happened. So what this situation, this immediate lockdown means, is further losses to our business. And not only on the futuristic impact of the current and continued finances, but the immediate debt that we've got ourselves into to purchase stock, to purchase draft kegs, to purchase fresh produce, we've ordered in from our suppliers, and the limited numbers have only allowed us to trade many restaurants, even in the busy areas, at less than 60% of their current turnover. And now with this further lockdown, we're going to go back to 10%. So we really need to have serious conversations very quickly with government and look at proposals and look at a collaborative way to work together to support government and to allow people only to drink in a licensed establishment where it's safe, and the consciousness is on the license holder. We are custodians of those license holders. We should be allowed to distribute and allow people to drink in a safe, controlled environment. So we are going to be putting plans together very, very swiftly and encourage government to relook at our businesses in particular, because if we don't reopen our businesses very shortly, we already have staff that have been notified that they have been retrenched, that they're on short time, or that unfortunately the business can't continue those short-term contracts that were put over the holiday seasons. So the situation is just going to spiral completely out of control, and it is not a good way for us to turn into 2021, not for the staff and certainly not for the business operators. It is most definitely our quietest time of the year, January and February, and we've always used the income of December to roll us forward to keep our industry alive.
As the Restaurants Association of South Africa, what are your views on the 8 p.m. curfew?
It doesn't serve us at all. In fact, what we learned over the festive season is that the restrictions and the curfew was what got us into this mess. So what we should have done is been proactive and should have put controlled, executed, disciplined plans out there that control the uncontrolled spaces. Because people left restaurants pre-curfew to go to lock-in house parties, to go and have illicit underground parties, and move into other environments that were not controlled and not safe, where there was close contact, there were crowds, and there was confined spaces. And those are the activities that they needed to be stricter on as opposed to looking at our restaurants. Throughout the whole totality of all of this that happened, none of the other sectors have been spoken to. None of the shopping centres, none of the car parks, none of the pavements, none of the markets. Nobody else has been brought to task, perhaps, other than the restaurant sector. And we are always taking the brunt. And I'm not arguing that we don't have naughty operators in the industry. You know, they've been reported and we're dealing with them. But the law authority, they've been out into the popular areas, the very popular holiday spots, and they found that we are compliant. So these things should have been properly and accurately assessed and reported on, and not for a blanket approach just because of irresponsible societal behavior to have been taken and put us at risk, and for us who are compliant to pay the price of this further lockdown.
Wendy, you speak about some leeway for license holders, saying that they should be allowed that opportunity to sell alcohol and trade to customers. But we know that what has been seen throughout the past few months is that people go into spaces like restaurants or clubs and do not wear masks when they're inside, but do come into the spaces with masks on, and then resulting in super spreader events. What are your reactions to such behavior, as behavioral change has been a focal point in curbing the coronavirus spreading?
You know, from the first onset of the proclaimed or the suggested super spread in Cape Town that took place in an establishment that has converted their license to an alternative restaurant license. So there are many different types of licenses that allow you to operate with certain restrictions and prohibitions. So we as a restaurant body, we are sit-down restaurants, takeaway restaurants, and we have a combination of food and alcohol that's served in our premises. The nightclubs chose to get dispensations put on their licenses to trade as restaurants. And that means if you're trading as a restaurant, you need to trade with both alcohol and food. So we can't really speak for that sector of the industry, but what we do know is that there were certain aspects where there were conversions on licenses that were taken into effect. And if those establishments had been reported, the authority should have done what they needed to do about it, and law enforcement should have done the evaluation. What we did find on the proclaimed super spread event in that particular establishment in Cape Town is that super spread did not take place in the establishment. There were amounts of house parties that took place the week before. And the same issue with the rage. They are in a controlled environment, in an uncontrolled environment that is not in an establishment. And this is where the situation has come from. So within a restaurant, we have 1.5 meter social distancing. We have the registers, we have the protocols. We have got the strictest protocols out of every single other industry. And the problem didn't come in through the restaurants. The problem has come in through outdoor events, through massive events. And in fact, the person who issued the certificate for the rage to go ahead has caused massive chaos as a result of the continued spread of COVID that has taken place over the holiday season. And we should have better managed the massive amounts of people and people that have gathered on pavements or house parties or lockdown parties.
And very lastly, before we let you go, Wendy, just give us more clarity on the sort of action that you'd like to take as you want to perhaps speak to government and see what the way forward could be.
Look, we respect President Ramaphosa, and I think that's the first thing we need to highlight. And I think that there are, it's very disappointing that the general public hasn't taken heed and note. And as a result, we certainly as an industry are going to take a massive blow. So we are going to continue to follow the protocols. We're going to continue to support government, and we're going to continue to support that our restaurants practice the highest degree of protocols. Simultaneously, we're going to call for high-level meetings that we can sit around the table and actually understand where the mitigated risk is within the restaurant sector and put a proposal together that if people only consume alcohol in a licensed establishment, then there will be no reason for gathering of crowds or outside events or pavement parties or house parties, because the only place that you will be able to consume alcohol is within a licensed establishment. And that will then certainly change the behavior of people who can't behave responsibly outside of establishments by consuming alcohol. So we've got a lot of details that we're doing some research. We've got to look at how we can also play our part in assisting government in bringing down the pressure on the infrastructure at the moment, and it is massive, and we understand it.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your views there. That was the Restaurant Association of South Africa's CEO, Wendy Alberts, giving us a sense of the impact on restaurants, level 3 lockdown as announced by the President.